today. Who has successful international travel and service programs? That's kind of a yes and no question. So I think what our question that we're going to put forward is, what is the value of taking a student on an international service project? And also maybe we're going to talk a little bit about maybe adult student ratios and maybe who should be on that adult team, right? How many participants do we have? We have 11. I think with 11 participants, we're just going to do a general.
Yeah, that works for me. That makes sense.
Yeah, I found art in this is that the 5 wasn't quite enough people. I felt it should have been a bit bigger in the last group that we were in. So just because some people didn't have the experience and were there to learn, and if there's people here to learn, I think I would just prefer a bit bigger. So just a show of hands, who has done international service with Interact students? Great, there's some, and then there's people here that are wanting to learn. So we need a recorder. Who would like to be a recorder? And just that's typing what we talk about in the side chat. And if I don't get a recorder, I will. Thank you, Morgan. I appreciate that. And we also need someone to bring back to, well, actually, no, we don't, because we're all in the same group. So we're gonna, we won't be coming back. And a timekeeper, just to keep people on limit. Art, can I assign you as timekeeper? And maybe just a show of hands that they're running a bit long. So first question, what would be the value of taking a student on an international service project? Who would like to? And if you're not comfortable answering, speaking up, as Art and I are very capable of just jumping in there and speaking up, there's the chat on the side, and please use the chat. And you can message me privately, and if you want to stay anonymous, and I will keep you anonymous if you want to bring forth or ask questions.
Well, I'll say something about international service if no one else is ready to. In my experience, the students seem to be pretty surprised sometimes about how other people are living and the conditions that other people are living. And I think they realize then how privileged they are. And how much need there actually is in the world. So that's what I've experienced so far, some of it.
Mm-hmm. I know when I took a group a few years back, and we actually homestayed with the local residents. So, and we were in a very poor community, and so these little huts were tiny, and people gave up their rooms for us and that, and we paid them $15 a night for us to stay, and so they were making some money. When I asked the kids what they were going to bring home from this trip, and they said, "You mean what we bought at the market?" And I went, no, what you've learned. And what they came out with was the strong sense of community that they envisioned, how little these people had, yet they were willing to share everything that they had with them, making sure that, their guests were treated extremely well. And I thought that was really neat because the kids got it, right? Excuse me, I got to get out of the sun here. The kids got it. So. Boy,
yeah, a lot of those less privileged communities also have a really strong sense of faith. We've seen that also, as well as community. Everybody's trying to help each other.
Art, what types of service projects have you done?
We actually have we train in our district. We have leadership training for club leadership, for district leadership, and international leadership. And our young people apply to become Interact ambassadors This is the fourth year we've had our Interact ambassadors to Kenya, and that's associated with our signature project of Crutches for Africa, where our clubs collect used mobility devices and we ship containers of these devices to our Rotary partners in those countries, and we've shipped to several different countries. But we select then from those who apply, usually 6 ambassadors, student ambassadors on a team, and then we will have anywhere from 4 to 6 adult leaders for that team as well. And they go into a training program as soon as they're selected in January. Usually the team goes in July, and they are an intensive training program, online program, to prepare them to know what they're going to be experiencing in that country and the tasks they're going to be doing there.
So your students then are selected fairly late in the process.
They apply. We generally open in October the applications. The deadline for submission is December 15th, and they are selected usually by January 15th by the selection committee. They have online interviews, and along with the recommendations and stuff that they fill out and send in. And then they immediately go into a training program online, and they will be doing usually monthly trainings, about 1.5 hour sessions online. And that program is designed where they actually train themselves. We use a curriculum. They are each assigned a segment of that curriculum to research, and then it's peer training. They train each other based upon what they have discovered from the research, and we then coach on top of that.
Okay, so we do it a little differently. We work with our Interact Club for 2 years, and we select the students about 6 months before we leave. Although they are told that they're actually not going till their butt is on the plane. And we select by commitment, work ethic, how often they show up to all of our Interact events that we do. And that's fundraising as well as community service. It's not, and maturity. We have had to, leave some students behind because they weren't mature enough, and we felt that they would be a safety risk. So everybody sort of throw it in the pot, and then they kind of weed themselves out, because some students decide this is too much effort. I would sooner play baseball or hockey or whatever, right? That was the bigger draw for them than the international trip. But yeah.
Is this from a club or from the district?
It's a club. It's a club. Yeah.
And ours is a district program.
Yeah. Yeah.
What are the size of the teams that you take?
Pardon me? The size of the groups? We've done anywhere from 9 to 15, to 21 students. We found 21 students was way too big. That was the year we went to South Africa, and it was too hard to house them and to move them around. 15 to 17 is a good size of number for students, and we tend to have a fairly high adult ratio as well with our students, because we also are looking. We want somebody with medical knowledge on the team, right? For the adult leaders. So we definitely want a nurse or a doctor, and that was my role. I was the nurse that always got to go. We want someone that understands construction and that is able to work with the crew that we're working with to translate how, and teach the kids how you hold a shovel, how you pick with an axe and things like that. Then we usually have a teacher or two on the trip, and they often are helping the kids. We always send a journal home every day for the parents to read, and the rest of the community to read what they're doing. So the teachers usually help the students with the journal. And then we have another person that's just sort of overseeing things and planning out the day and keeping the flow going. So we have usually 5 adults on the trip as well. So we have, and that's great to be watching over the kids and keeping them safe.
Could I ask what, if any, impact COVID is having on these plans for this year?
Yeah.
Besides a lot.
Yes, because the students, haven't been able to do their fundraising, or they have done a little bit of community service. And we certainly won't be, they're due to go out next year, 2021. We are looking at maybe doing something in Northern Canada with the Indigenous, because they're in Northern Canada, their COVID numbers are quite low, if they will accept them, right? So, but it might stall everything for a couple of years. And Art, I think you're probably in the same boat, correct?
Yes, we had to pull back. The teams that were heading out in July of this year, we had to hold off, and those young people have seats secured on the teams for this next summer. They'll be set out hopefully in June or July this next summer, and we will probably expand those teams, adding some additional positions. Who else in this group has an active program that can tell us about it?
Wendy, have you never taken a group on it? No?
I think we wanted to a couple of years ago. I wanted to take a group to Guatemala, and I found I was, of course, doing all the work, trying to get it organized. In the end, we ended up canceling. I mean, from both ends, I actually had places for them to stay. I had a project that they could work on. And I just found I think I just didn't have all my ducks in a row, because I didn't have the parents contributing and supporting their kids in the program. And I think that's really one element that maybe I missed out on. And hopefully I could try that in a couple more years, because I know that there's several programs in Guatemala that they could work on. So.
Right. And the parent support is huge, absolutely huge. That is a big piece. You need the parents to buy in to the project to support the kids for their success. Mary, I saw your hand up.
I had a couple of questions. How long are your trips usually?
Our trips run just roughly around 3 weeks, anywhere between 18 and 21 days. Because we do find some fun things for the kids to do too. We do play tourist a little bit. It's not all just work. So we find a couple of things for the kids to do that are fun as well. What about you, Art? How long are your trips?
We usually are there for about 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And my second question was, what is the average cost per participant?
That's a good question. So when our kids go, originally it wasn't going to cost them anything because all the money had been raised. And I came up with, no, the kids need to pay part of their airfare, because if no money has come out for them to go, it's too easy at the last minute to say I've changed their mind.
Yes.
So they pay about half of their airfare, and it's non-refundable at a certain point. And in all the years because I did 8 international trips, we only had 1 student back out at the very end. And then the rest, the money was raised so that it didn't cost the students anything other
Can
than
anyone hear me?
their, yes, we can, other than their spending.
Can
But-
anyone
So
hear me?
what was the cost though?
You know what, I would
No.
have to go back and look. And Mary, I will try and find
Okay.
that for
thanks.
you, okay?
How about your program, Art? How much does it cost per participant?
Well, of course, we're sending to Kenya.
Right.
Airfare and so forth is about 1,500 that we provide, the airfare and the insurance. We also have learned that we asked them to contribute about 750 to the in-country costs and their additional expenses for any of their, of course, they've got their shots they have to have, pretty expensive, and they're spending money and passport, all that. That's so they're out about 1,500 also.
Okay.
So that's where we are on our program.
Did anybody else have
Thank you.
questions?
I was just going to say something, Lorraine. From our district, we had Kathy Napick go to Watoko with a group of students as well. Well, it was her Interact group and a few of my students. Actually, I had 2 students from my group go with the Mount Sentinel group. It was quite successful. What they did was build houses out of pop bottles. And they had, I believe they were gone for 10 days to 2 weeks. They had to do quite a bit of fundraising. And then they came back and they did a presentation at our club. And if you could have seen just the difference in the students from before and after, it was quite a unique experience because they really learned so many different things, and they discussed that in our Rotary Club.
Yeah, the kids that get to go on an international trip, the maturity, right, that they gain in that short period of time, it's life-changing for these kids. And you know, I keep in touch. I was in Interact for 18 years. I keep in touch with a lot of the kids, and you know, some of them are in their 30s now, and they still talk about that trip and how impactful it was for them and how life-changing and how they look at the world differently now just from that one experience.
Lorraine,
Yeah,
can you talk a little bit more about kind of you said you engaged them like 2.5 years in advance.
2
So
years.
can you talk for 2 years in advance? Can you kind of talk like from the get-go of the application all the way till the travel? And are you traveling every year or
Every 2 years. Every 2
2
years.
years?
Mm-hmm.
So can you talk about how you recruit, who you recruit? Are you recruiting sophomores? Are you recruiting, you know?
I'm from Canada, so we don't use sophomore, and we have juniors and seniors. Juniors are grades 9 and 10, and seniors are grades 11 and 12.
Okay.
We take the full gamut grade. Actually, we've even taken some very mature grade 8s, grade 9, grade 10, grade 11, grade 12. And so, you know, when we have the meeting in September, when school starts, we tell them that, you know, the goal is to go on an international project. We might not have our project lined up, but we are actively seeking. We ask the kids maybe what countries they would like to go to. And we look at cost, right? What the cost would be to get them there, because we took a group to South Africa one year, and that was very expensive because it was such a long distance. So, you know, the kids get some input as to where they would like to go as well. But of course, we tell them it depends on finding a partner at the other end that we can work with. And that's very key. And, you know, fortunately, because I am involved in youth exchange as well, I have a lot of contacts. So I can usually find a partner through youth exchange, and they're willing to take us on. When we explain what we want to come and do. And so once we have a focus for the kids, of course, they get more excited. And so we always have the club executive, when we have meetings with our partners, the club president is there and the vice president is there as well on these meetings that when we're meeting with our partners and setting up the projects and working out the logistics of going. The students have to commit to about a 75% attendance to our fundraisers as well as our community service projects that we do. So, you know, the kids always say, yeah, we give up a lot of weekends for Interact and for Rotary, but in the end, it's worth it when they're on the trip.
So I'm
And
sorry, just so when you say fundraisers and community service projects, you're saying both your Rotary Club projects and fundraisers and their high school Interact? You have more than one high school or?
no, we just have one high school.
Oh,
So
okay.
so the kids work with our Rotary clubs, and they help them with their fundraiser projects and with the Rotary fundraiser projects. Then the Rotary Club pays them for working at these fundraiser projects. They also create their own fundraiser projects to raise money for this trip. And then we do community service. So for example, one of the things that we do is we pick up garbage in our city. But when we go to the city to ask for a grant to help us go on this trip, they always give us the money because they said we're the only club in town that actually works for the money that we ask for, right? But we do other community services as well. We'll help with reading programs at elementary school and things like that.
Ours is a little different. We actually, as I said, this is a district program. And so we go every year with this. And we have, as I said, a set curriculum for training them to be a part of the program. And we're drawing from a huge area, the northern 2/3 of Arizona, plus Needles, California, Laughlin, Nevada. So it's a tri-state area. And we have had young people selected who apply, you know, from all over that area. And it's impossible pretty much for them to get together physically. So all of our connections are online. We do have learned to try to have a midway in our training to have a physical retreat with them to bring them together with the advisors, the team. And we also, commenting about the parent involvement, in our training, we will have 2 parent nights where we have them bring their parents on so that we can have them ask questions. We do presentations for them to make certain that they understand what their young people are committing to and what the conditions will be. And then we use a WhatsApp during the time that they're in Kenya, and the parents are directly connected on that. So we have reports back, except for areas where they have no internet service, reports back. And we also, last several years, have had one of the young people that will do a log, or a blog rather, that then is printed in their regional newspaper back home of what's happening with the team. That's been an interesting feature.
And so are they doing individual fundraising for their, I mean, $1,500 is pretty prohibitive for a lot of kids. So is your district doing things to help them fundraise their portion?
Yes, they are able to do fundraising on their own, but also their Rotary clubs that are sponsoring them will help them with their portion as well. But we do general fundraising for the whole project to help ship the crutches and wheelchairs and so forth. Our budget this year for our 2 teams going to Kenya and Central Mexico and sending 40-foot shipping containers to each of those is $35,000 for our budget. And out of that, as I said, we will cover their airfare and their insurance. The adult members of the team pay their own way.
That brings up a question that I had. What type of insurance do folks get to cover themselves on a trip like this?
Good question. Rotary has insurance that is used by the Youth Exchange and by other Rotarians that are traveling. Excellent insurance, and there's no sense in reinventing the wheel. Just use that insurance. This is really like a short-term youth exchange.
So are you using CISI then, Art?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, we just buy our insurance from the local insurance broker here. With most Canadians already have travel insurance. So actually we go down with True because the kids are often already covered with an insurance program that their parents have. And then we buy extra insurance just in case.
Yeah, we've had no problem at all with CISI, and so that
Yes.
works fine.
CISI is fabulous because I mean, with being in with Youth Exchange, I've had to work with them very closely, and yeah, I would highly recommend them for anybody else that wants to go.
What we have found, I would just note, the young people who have been involved in this program, as I said, they train for 6 months before they go, and then they go and they have a lot of home hosting while they're there, living in the homes of Rotarians and others. They work hard. This is not a vacation. They go, they work hard serving, not only in distributing the crutches and other things, working with the team there, but they also will participate in other projects during the time that they are there. And they wind up with a huge impact upon them. And at least half of the young people we send wind up changing the course of what they're going to do in their life. To come back, change their majors. And so this is a very impactful kind of a thing.
Yeah, and speaking on home hosting, so we've done it both ways where we have, well, we've done it 3 ways actually. We've home hosted with Rotarians. And the first year we home hosted with Rotarians, and they were very well off Rotarians. So these kids were living in beautiful, beautiful homes with swimming pools and you name it, and you know, hired help and you name it, they had it. Then halfway through the trip, we went on site to where we were working, and we stayed in an orphanage in dorms, and with, you know, so dorm styles with bunk beds and what have you. We had a couple girls that were ready to pack up and go home after being in these beautiful homes, and then they were in these brick dorms, right? With it was pretty interesting. So, and then we've just been on site as a group by ourselves, and where we were kind of isolated, and those groups didn't get a real sense of the feel of the country is when you stay. And then we stayed in some small villages where we lived with the local people who were very poor, right? And for me, and talking to the kids over the years, that was the best experience, was living with the people that had very little, where they came back with that strong sense of community and saw how happy they were. They have so little, but they're so happy and they're so willing to share, and you know, and that, and they hardly know me, but they're lending me the stuff, right? So, you know, I think having the kids, no matter what type of homestay it is, a homestay is way better than when you're just isolated and just talking to a few locals. It also helps to have people that, because we go to Central and South America, it really helps to have someone along that speaks the language that can be the main translator. So that's another person that we have on our group, is someone that can speak the language.
Actually, one segment of our ambassadors to Kenya is over on the edge of the Masai Mara, this huge game preserve, and they actually live in tents for several, actually about 3 or 4 nights. And that's a new experience because some of these kids have never camped or had any kind of tent experience. And so.
And did you have the monkeys?
Did you have
the monkeys stealing everything?
They deal with monkeys, yeah, all kinds of things.
Because when we were in South Africa, the monkeys would steal, if you didn't have it hidden away, the monkeys would steal it. And so our kids lost a few things until they learned. Yeah, then that's part of the trip experience, right?
Right.
We even had kids that decided that they were going to pet the alligators. Okay, what other questions would you like to ask us?
So how long has your local club been doing this? I mean, this seems like a massive project to take on at the club level, but you know, I'm from District 5170, and it's almost too big. You know, it's like such a mammoth district that it's really hard, I think, for a lot of reasons. So I'm curious, but we have a small club, and how big is your club, and you're able to put this program on?
Okay, well, we actually have two Rotary clubs in our district. So my club is about 40 members and the other club is about 25. And so we have a couple of Rotarians from each club that work with the kids. So it's really like just a couple of people from each club that work with the kids. I always used to say that I belong to two clubs. I belong to my Rotary club and I belong to the Interact club, because sometimes I spent more time with my Interact club than I did with my own Rotary club. So, it's just a couple of very energetic, committed people. And the other thing I should say is when we pick our projects, both clubs donate money to the project. The Interact Club puts some money in, and both Rotary clubs. And then we get a matching grant with the money, right? So that's how we get our money for the project. A lot of the fundraising money is for the travel that we do. So, if you've got a couple of very committed members that really like working with youth, it's very feasible for you to be able to take kids on an international trip. And Art, I suspect it's similar with you, with your group that you take.
We actually, one of the neat things about having a district group is that young people from even the smallest clubs, we had a girl from the Grand Canyon Interact Club and Rotary Club up there that participated last year. And so even the kids from the smallest clubs can apply to be a part of this program. And then you've got the whole district, all the clubs supporting there. So this is one of the things that makes it pretty neat having a district project like that. That girl, by the way, decided that she was the president of her Interact Club at her school up there. And she decided that they were going to raise $5,000 for the project. And they did.
Wow.
Morgan, I can tell you that there's easier projects if you're just looking for something that's a 1 week of going to Mexico to build houses. There are a lot of Rotary programs that support that. There's Project Amigo. We've worked with B2 Live, which is in La Mission, staying at an orphanage there and working with doing projects actually at the orphanage. So if you want any information about that, you can certainly ask me, but sometimes it's easier to start with something like that. We go over spring break. That's when we do that trip. But you don't have to invent it because it's already done. And you're just kind of filling in the spots, and it's a pretty amazing place. It's a very underserved community, both of those. I think La Mission is much more underserved than like a Project Amigo, but I'm just saying that, some of these might sound more daunting if you haven't done it before. And something like working with B2 Live in La Mission, it's kind of set, you don't have to worry about where the kids are going to stay, because they have a whole section in the back of the orphanage that is just for people that come to do community service. And there's always a house to build, for sure. My first trip there, we built a house that was like up a goat path, and we literally had to do a bucket brigade with all the students pouring concrete. The concrete was mixed down below and sent up with a bucket brigade in 5-gallon buckets. It's crazy, but so just giving you a little options.
Yeah. And Dee, I'm wondering if you're thinking of the short-term Rotary Youth Exchange program, which unfortunately Jennifer did a short-term in the last section. But yeah, Rotary still does the short-term where a student is connected with another student and lives in their home for 2 to 3 weeks, and then the students come back. When the student comes back, the student they were living with comes with them, and then they share living in their home for 2 to 3 weeks. So it's quite a unique exchange.
Yes, it is. I'd like to hitchhike on Barbie's comments because I have had that same experience of leading hundreds of young people down to work at an orphanage in Mexico. In our case, the orphanage did not have any quarters for us to stay, but we were able to set up with a motel about 30 miles away in a town that we worked with each year, and could make things work out that way. And so there's all kinds of ways to do it, but that's a little easier way to start sometimes, to go down and do a project with an orphanage down in Mexico or something like that.
Yeah, and by doing so, we help support the orphanage because we're paying them to stay there basically. I mean, it's very little, but it does help feed the people in the orphanage. And this particular one has about 100 children living there. And they also have an infant center, which is really unusual. There aren't a lot of those, especially in Baja. So there's, yeah, a lot of very cool opportunities for sure. And, you know, the dorms aren't super comfortable, but I mean, for us adults, but absolutely livable. You can do anything for a week, you know. And then buying our meals, so we would make our own breakfast, and then one of the as a group, we made our breakfast, and then we would buy our lunch and dinner from the local nonprofit daycare, and for every meal we bought, served meals to the daycare students. So pretty cool. They do after school care and also taking care of infants at no cost, or a sliding scale for the parents. So.
Well, Ben, a little bit ago said we had 10 minutes left. So get your last minute questions in. How many minutes left, Ben?
Hey, we ended the 10 after, so we still have a little bit of time. No rush.
Okay.
I was wondering if anybody has ever explored the idea of friendship exchanges, you know, like Rotarians do, for interactors. It would be maybe interesting to do homestays with other Rotary districts. I've had a couple of really wonderful friendship exchange experiences. They weren't service focused, but they've allowed me to meet Rotarians from you know, other places and get to know a place in an up close and personal way. I'm wondering if something like that might be an interesting idea for our interactors.
That is a good idea, actually.
Yeah.
This is something we are actually using as an outgrowth of our district project. We've had groups from there in Kenya that have come, leaders. We haven't had the young people themselves yet, but we have been actually working toward a new generation service exchange for Rotaract level that will involve some of the alumni from our Interact Ambassadors program that will go back as part of a team there, and we'll be bringing a team from Kenya to Arizona. And so that's part of what we're working on. It's very similar to the Friendship Exchange for Rotary, but the New Generation Service Exchange can either be an individual thing or it can be a team. And so we're looking at doing that kind of thing with our Rotaracts as an outgrowth of this.
Yeah, and in the last session, Mary, I brought up that the Colville Interact Club is having Zoom meetings with a Brazilian Interact Club. So they're doing kind of like a virtual where they're and so then their next session, the Colville Club is going to teach the Brazilians how to make something North American, and the Brazilians are going to teach the Colville Club how to make a Brazilian dish, right? So it's kind of like a virtual friendship exchange that they're doing. So they're doing these unique and interesting things on these Zoom meetings.
That sounds like fun.
Great idea. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that idea. I was just going to ask how we can capitalize on this time when it's not really safe for people to get together to do virtual global exchanges and really maximize our opportunities to connect with the world.
Yes.
Yeah, so that's a great opportunity. And these guys connected through an exchange student that had been in Brazil and had been an Interact member in Brazil. And he was an Interact member in Colville before he left. So he was the one that was instrumental in connecting these two clubs.
That's like having, what do they call it, a twin club or something like that, a sister club?
Yeah.
I think that is really a lot of fun. We're just looking for all kinds of ways to make the Interact experience, value added, and why would I want to be involved with Interact? So I think the more of these kind of opportunities we can do, the better. So really excited about this.
Now, this is one of the things that we're going to be, the next session in this track actually is on middle school, but we do not have an opportunity at this point for our middle schoolers to participate in something like the International, but it's definitely something for them to look forward to, a reason to stay in Interact and move on up into the high school area. We're able to do this at the high school and the Rotaract area. So they're eager to go. And they get the incentive down early if they're in our middle school programs.
Okay. Any other questions? Any other comments? I think we've had some really great discussion today and some great questions. So thank you everyone for your fabulous questions, because otherwise Art and I would kind of be hanging here wondering, what do we say? But yeah, I'm happy with what's transpired, and I hope that you'll be going away with some good information. And you have Art's email. If any of you want to connect with me, you can go through Art. I'm happy to share anything with you, as I'm sure Art would be as well.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Yeah, we've actually this year doubled our program. We have had, as I said, for the last 4 years, our ambassadors to Kenya. This year we are adding an ambassador to Central Mexico. And so a little different situation there, but that's where we're going with it.
Good. How much time, Ben? Can we kind of?
Yeah, this ends at 10 after, so we still have 3 more minutes if you want to do anything for those 3.
Well, maybe some people, this would be an opportunity to take a bathroom break, maybe, which I'm going to do.
Excellent. So we'll end here then. Excellent. No worries. So thank you all for being here, and hopefully when it's safe to do so, we can physically travel again. But if not, these virtual connection friendship things could be a great option. The next session starts at 2:15. I will post in the chat the document. Hopefully you are all pros at it now that you've done it twice, but for the 3rd and final session, if you're interested in the middle school specific training, that is still in this room. So you do not have to leave, and we'll hear from the wonderful Peter at that point. But the document is in the chat, and that starts at 2:15 my time. I guess it's 11:15 yours.
11:15.
But anyways, at 15 after, wherever you may be in the world, is when the next session begins. So have a nice little bio break, and thank you so much, Lorraine, for leading this wonderful session.
Well, and Ben, thank you for all your help.
My pleasure. My pleasure. See you all in 7 minutes.
Okay.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.